Have you ever experienced frustration when trying to find the perfect colors? No matter what you do, it just never seems to work. I know exactly what that feels like. I'm going to share with you a 4-color strategy that, when mastered, can flip things up massively. No more staring at a blank page, guessing where to start. By learning this trick, and by the conclusion of what I'm going to teach you, you'll be able to choose your colors with confidence and create stunning artwork every time. So what can you expect? 1, I'll dive into what to consider when choosing your 4 colors using simple color theory. 2, you'll learn how to use the colors in a simple drawing using layering techniques. 3, I'll discuss where to apply this strategy. And to finish it all off, we'll talk about how to expand the strategy, unlocking greater possibilities with multicolor subjects and complicated color shifts. So thanks so much for joining me, and let's get drawing.
The 4-color system is about gathering colors that work together in a particular order and application that relate to your subject colors. We'll start by discussing how to choose the main color based on warm or cool temperatures. Then we'll add warm or cold boost color, a base color to get it all going, and a shade color that can be either complementary or analogous. I've talked about shade colors and accent colors in previous videos, and I'll make sure that the link is in the description area below. Don't worry about the technical side of this. Color discussion is a fantastic tool to know for all artists, and the color wheel is a great friend to have with us. It's like warm pie and ice cream. You'll come to love it if you don't love it already. I'll dive right in and show you how to choose the main color using some simple color theory. The main color of any subject is the color we see first. I know that not all subjects will have just one main color, and later on I'll address that in section 4, expanding the strategy. But for now, let's keep it simple. We'll start with these plant leaves. What's the first thing that jumps out at us? These leaves are green, and that alone deals with one of the first aspects of the system. But wait, it can't be that easy. There's that other part of the main color equation. Remember what I mentioned earlier? Choose a main color that is cold or warm. That's the big, oh yes, color temperature. Okay, back to the sample. We can clearly see that something's different, and that difference is often one of the trickiest things to get right in color choices, and one of the biggest things that cause color anxiety. It's color temperature. Color temperature is the warmth and coolness of a color, and to make it even more confusing, some colors don't even exhibit color temperature. They're like neutral or pure colors. We see them most often as pure colors on a color wheel. It's important to know that color temperatures can range all over the place. You can get reds that are warm like corals, or cool like red wine, or warm greens like moss on a rock, or the color of ocean in a storm, which is a cool green. Determining the main colors is easy. Determining its temperature requires a little bit of a trick. And the best way to do this is compare our subject with a warm and cool color reference, something we can get to quickly. And for this reason, I created this color chart for you to use. I've added a link in the description box so you can download it, keep it on your phone, or print it and get it laminated for future reference. You're going to use the color chart as a quick reference guide. Compare parts of your subject, determine what color range it sits in and what color temperature, and then make your color pencil choices from there. The color chart is just a starting place, but enough to get you going. For new artists, this is a quick and easy tool to get you there fast. If we put our leaf beside the greens, our subject color becomes more defined. The ivy leaf on the right is cool toned, and the holly leaf on the left is warm toned. And there you have it. We've easily determined what the color temperature is for both our subjects, and all we need to do is go to our color pencil choices and look for that color. I'm sure you're also thinking, well, why don't I just go to my color pencils first? Because that's what I usually do, and for sure, that's an option. If you prefer to work directly with your pencils for your color choice, that's a fantastic method as well. Look at your subject, compare it to your color pencils, find the color, and determine its temperature. Many color sets will have the colors laid out in color temperature. Whatever method you use, remember it's not just about determining a main color, it's about the construction of a layering of colors around a main color and its temperature. So making sure we get the main color correct means the other components of the system easily fall into place. And once we figure that out, then you're done on your main color choice. That's great! From here, choosing the remaining colors is super easy. We know our main color, we know its color temperature. Next on the to-do list is something I call the boost color. So what is a boost color and why do we need one? There's two main reasons. Boost colors are the same color as the main color, but the opposite color temperature. And how does it work? We want to create something called color harmony and counterbalance. In our example of the leaves, the boost color creates harmony because it's a hue within the green color range. Any color that sits beside each other on the color wheel is considered to be an analogous color. These colors are all about harmony. The boost color is used to enhance, create visual interest, depth, and highlights. But the boost color also creates counterbalance to the main color. What does this mean? Let's look at the holly leaf. If the main color is warm green, we use the cool boost color to help cool down all that warmth. We're countering the large areas of warm green color with a dab of cool green. This is called balance. We apply the cool colors on a warm subject in the shadows and transition areas between light and dark. On a cool toned subject like the ivy, we use the boost warm green color in the light areas. It helps to counter all that cool green and creates pops of highlight while warming up the subject. So, warm mains use cool tones in shadows. Cool mains use warm tones in highlights. And to keep that counterbalance right, we're looking at a mix ratio of 80% to 20% boost color. It's that simple. Moving on to the third part of the color system, we're going to choose the base color. Let's discuss what a base color is. As most of you know, working with colored pencils means using a layering technique. In my own large drawings, I often use 3 to 4 different base colors. These aren't main colors or even accent colors, it's just the base colors. However, starting with one is a good place for beginners. When choosing a base color, all we need to do is look at the main color, find the lightest common denominator from that main color, and that's going to be your base color. Let's go back to the color wheel and look at the green again. Green, as you know, is a secondary color. It's made up of combining yellow and blue together. Our base color comes from the lighter of those two colors, and that's yellow. The next part of the base equation is to figure out the intensity of the color. Intensity means brightness or dullness of the color. To look at the intensity, let's look at that green and compare it with an intensity chart. If you want to make your own intensity scale, there's a video I created called Mastering Hues, Tints, and Shades that can explain this better, and I'll make sure that the link is in the description box below. We can see the green, cool or warm, both are quite intense. That means we can use an intense bright yellow, and that is really helpful to us. This color should be as neutral as possible. And now we figured out our base color. The final part of the 4-color system is just as simple a decision as the other ones. It's a shade color used to create the shadows for depth and form. This color needs to be either a complementary color taken from the base color itself or an analogous color chosen from the main color. Let's break that down a little bit. Our base color is yellow. So, a complementary color of yellow is going to be purple. Let's take a look at the main color. The main color is green. If we look at the analogous colors on the color wheel, we have green, blue, and purple. So, purple would be one of the analogous colors. It's kind of interesting that the base color and the main color both share the same shade color. We have our shade color, and like the base color, it can be a neutral. It doesn't have to be warm or cool. Colors that fit this are violets and pure purples. Try not to choose a color that has a mix in it, such as a blue violet or red violet. Purple makes the perfect color as a shade for green, as it fits all the requirements needed to create color harmony and balance. So, we've now considered the most important part of the 4-color strategy, and we've tied it into using the color wheel to help us get there. The trick of the whole strategy is getting those colors quickly and then getting them to work for us. We'll move on to step 2 and do an example using this strategy with a layering technique, working with our 4 colors on a cool and warm tone subject. I outlined the 2 leaves in their main color of warm green number 901 on the holly and cool green number 909 on the ivy. Then, I used a kneaded eraser to remove any residue of the graphite. I'm putting down the base color of yellow over both examples, layering it on very lightly, and you'll see as I keep working on this drawing that I keep adding more and more of the yellow base to build it up. I do this because it allows me greater control over the process of color layering, and mixing and putting down the colors so lightly adds greater transparency. I'll now work a very light layer of the warm green on the holly. At the same time, I'm adding in some veins on the leaf and making sure my pencils stay nice and sharp all the time while doing this. Keep your layers light and keep the transparency happening. This will create visual interest and detail. As we look more closely at the finished work, we'll be able to see the multiple colors. I go over the left side of the leaf with the base of the yellow, keeping up the warm colors as much as possible. Next, I'm going to start working and layering the shade color Violet 932. Remember, we use the shade on a warm subject only in areas that there is shadow or when we want to create form and dimension. I use it along the vein leaves and in strategic areas of the turned part of the leaf. We can see in the example that there are some very deep hues on the subject, and these are what we want to deal with using the purple shade color. Look at it as a type of color blocking, used sparingly and at the same point still lightly applied. Why do I put the shade down first and the boost color on top? It's because I want to use the boost color as a dark blending mixer, and layering the shade and boost will create a darker color for the forms I'm trying to create. This enhances the shade and makes it look green and not purple. You can see that this is achieved quite successfully. Remember, keep drawing lightly. We'll go in with the yellow and keep applying more and more layers in a light hand. I use the yellow also as a type of blender. We don't always have to use a colorless blender. A lot of times using a light color or, as I said previously, even a dark color over darker colors works well for blending, and that's why I'm doing this here. Back into the purple, I'm building up the shadows and form here. I keep jumping between the purple and the yellow, which is mentioned earlier as a complementary color of the purple. It's going to really help to neutralize that purple and gray it down a lot. Here, I'll start using a marker blender, mixing the colors more and deepening the colors as I do it. I usually only use a liquid blender at the final stage of color layering, as it melts the color pigment and binder into the paper, making it impossible to erase. I'm jumping between the purple and yellow. I'll keep building up the layers, going a bit harder on the pressure and mixing the complementary colors. If you add the purple, add a layer of yellow over it to create the shade color. I'm going to finish this whole drawing off with a little bit of blending with a blending pencil from Prismacolor. The holly is done. We're going to move on to the ivy leaf next. Like the holly, I'm starting with the main color over the base of the yellow, which I had applied earlier. I'm treating it the same way as the holly, capturing the veins as I go along. For this example, I'm definitely not doing as many veins as the original, just enough to give the sense of them. I'm adding another layer of the cool green and getting into defining the shape a lot more. I'll apply the shade purple over the leaf in the same manner as the holly. I'm going very light as I work these areas and these details. It's here that I want to discuss step 3. How and where to apply this strategy. Let's start with the where. When I started this discussion, I wanted to acknowledge how difficult it can be to choose color when we're doing art with colored pencils. The where of applying this technique comes into play with that acknowledgement. Where to apply this strategy is basically anywhere we need help with our color choices. It can be used on very simple one-hued subjects or multi-hued subjects that I'll discuss next. Look at this strategy as simply a starting point. Think of the subject in terms of layers of color and not one color. The layers of colors are all speaking to each other, and together they tell a story about your subject. Knowing the process of how to work with the colors is part 2 of this discussion, the how. We've gone over how to find the colors and how to even layer, but we haven't touched on how this connects to you as a colored pencil artist working at making art. A big goal for me is making each and every person who wants to work with colored pencils become successful with this wonderful medium. How we apply this strategy is about combining all the parts together. The color choice, color theory, layering techniques, and how to go beyond the basics. Each part cannot be successful without the other. So how we apply this strategy is keep developing your skills in all the parts. If you're struggling with one aspect of the strategy, For instance, color temperature. Look at the color chart. Compare it to your pencils. Do a color temperature swatch of your pencils. Sketch in a sketchbook or piece of paper that you can find and that you have available, and build up an understanding of color temperature. I'll be posting a further discussion on color temperature in an upcoming article available in my December newsletter. The link for signing up is in the description box. In conclusion of this step, the where and how to apply the strategy, just keep going. Build your skills, experiment, and please ask any questions in the comments. After I've added a layer of the purple, I'll add the warm green to the highlight areas of the leaf. Again, making sure I'm applying it very light. You can clearly see the multiple layers. I switch back to the cool green and keep building the layers of colors, mixing the warm green into the shadows and forms. Another layer of purple shade and then mixing that with yellow, which is used to create the bright highlights, and break it all up with the cool green and purple. I'm going to be working with the blending marker to mix the colors better and add some white for highlights. I keep adding more of the cool green over the leaf to blend and layer the colors together. Go ahead and add some white to blend in the highlights, and then I'm going to use a cool green and purple to finish off that stem. And from there, we'll finish the ivy leaf. We're going to move on to step 4, expanding the strategy with multicolor subjects and complicated color shifts. We've got a beautiful macaw to work from, and our first goal is to decide on a main color. On subjects with large color blocks like this macaw, we're faced with what is the main color? That's easy. The main color will be multiple colors. Each large section of color will have its own little color strategy. So blue, yellow, orange, coral red, and green will have its own boost, will have its own shade, will have its own base. It's so beautiful. I think I'm going to draw this sometime soon. Once we've decided on what the main color is, we're going to determine what the color temperature is, just like the strategy. And we can do this with the warm, cool color chart, or if you have a swatch list of your warm, cool colors in your pencils, that's great too. Let's do a quick check of the color temperature and compare it to our color chart. Yellow, orange look like they are both on the warm side. But then we get to the reds. This is a bit of an unknown. It's somewhat between the warm red and the cool red. Let's look at that in a minute. Blue looks like it's leaning towards the warm side, and green as well. Let's go back to the red. If we choose the warm red and put it beside the cool red, let's go ahead and find a color that might be in between those two colors. The in-between color is actually coming out more as a pure or neutral color red. Because of this, we can lean to the warms or cools. It's a color right in between. Now that we figured out the color temperature, we can add our boost, base, and shade. And there you have it. An expanded color chart for a subject with multiple color blocks. We're going to move on to another subject using analogous color blends. This flower is a great example of showing a gradual shading of cool reds, pinks, and oranges. There is a large variety of colors. The colors melt into each other, and there is no discernible color blocking like the macaw. This poses both a challenge and a solution with the use of analogous colors from a main of one of the color choices. I'll choose red, but orange or pink will also work. The reason why I do this is because we only need to choose one boost color, one base, and one shade if we're going to be keeping it simple. Once I have my main and I compared it to the chart, I know my boost is warm red, my base will be yellow, and the shade can be green as a complementary to red, or purple, which is analogous to red. I could use both if I wanted to add even more visual interest and detail. And there you have it, a 4-color strategy that you've now mastered and will flip things up massively for you. I so enjoyed creating this video for you. It's been a fun journey into the world of color strategy that I hope will help you with all of your work. Thanks for joining me, for watching, and if you have any questions or would love to see a subject covered in colored pencil art, just drop it in the comments. Happy drawing!